how's it going? Bonnie Violet here, queer chaplain. And in case you don't know where you are, I don't know why I say that, I just always do. You are at Dragon Spirituality with Afrika America. This is our third episode of a series of 6 in collaboration with Glide. The series is called Faith, Hope, and Justice. And we are talking with folks around drag artists about their drag and spirituality, and then we also have a couple segments where we're interviewing folks who are trans and talking about their experience with spirituality. So we're really glad that you found us this evening. And in case you haven't been here before either, this is kind of like an opportunity for like church, if you will, or spiritual shit to meet drag like show. So it's kind of like a drag show. So you're welcome to tip the drag artist throughout the evening. So we will be sharing our guest Afrika America's like PayPal and Cash App and all that fun stuff. So feel free to tip along the way. Also, we love questions and comments. So please do, feel free to interact with us in the comments, and we'll get to them as quickly as we can. I want to say hello to Elizabeth and Troy. So glad you could join us, and also for saying hello already this evening. What else is there to say? Oh, and a shout out to the Glide Pride team, which is the LGBTQ team with Glide, who is sponsoring and hosting this event as well. So, and a queer chaplain is me. And a queer chaplain, I feel called to be with people around death and dying. A chaplain is typically with people around death and dying. Usually it's in the body. Usually like it's hospitals, army, that sort of thing is dying in the body. And for me, I feel like I've died often and usually around identity. And many times as I found myself as this new person, especially like as I found myself to be a queer, as I found myself to be a person living with HIV, I didn't think I was allowed to have spirituality be a part of that. Like it wasn't integrated. My spirit was kind of off somewhere else while I was dealing with whatever, and so my hope is just to help people be more integrated and invite spirit and spirituality into their life in whatever way that is, and whatever it is that you might be going through. So yeah, I guess I think a lot of my spirituality is that I've been healed, and I've been given a lot, and I'm blessed, and part of that is to share it, and hopefully help others. A big part of my goal is hopefully to help people experience less pain and struggle than I did, or at least maybe differently. Anywho, that's enough of all that stuff. I'm really excited to have our guest this evening. Our guest this evening is Afrika America. Afrika is a social justice warrior, activist, producer, and performer. These are just a few adjectives that characterize this phenomenal Drag Out the Vote ambassador. She produces the Saturday DIVALICIOUS brunch shows at Beaux on first Saturdays, Sunday DRAGtastic brunch shows at The Edge on the second and fourth Sundays, and every Wednesday at Midnight Sun. Let the games begin, trivia, bingo, drag. Please put your hands together for San Francisco's Divalicious Dreamgirl, Afrika America. Oh, I gotta put you on the screen now.
Hi, sweetie.
I'm like, jump on, girl.
Oh no, I know. I'm like, here
I know, right? I forgot that was my job, my task.
That's fine. You did great.
So glad you could join me this evening.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I am so excited about being here. It's really great to have conversation around intersectionality and how that works in with our drag, with our faith, with our spirituality, with how we want to be perceived and how we are seen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And as this is part of Pride, how's your Pride been so far?
Busy. It's very funny. I can't complain. I'm booked and blessed, and I'm very happy about that. But it's every day I get hit up on, can you come and do our event down in this place or that place or this place? I'm thinking to myself, okay, Pride Month happens every year in June. You've had 3, and I understand that we're coming out of COVID, so I think that probably it's now people realize they have funds and or they have a place to do something, so they want to get as many artists out to do their thing. And I'm very pleased and happy when I can do it. Unfortunately, I've had to tell a bunch of people no because I've been booked for other things. So
Yeah. Well,
keep trying me. I'll do my best.
I
I'm
was
trying
glad.
to I'm trying to be there.
Right. I'm glad that you were able to join us this evening.
I was so happy that you invited me. That was the best thing.
Awesome. So I like to just kind of dive right in.
Okay.
So I would love to hear a little bit about your childhood. Anything that kind of comes to mind that you would like to share with us.
Oh, okay. So I am actually a native San Franciscan. I'm a unicorn. I know you don't meet many of us.
Right.
Born and raised here in San Francisco in the Ingleside district over by San Francisco State and Stonestown Shopping Center. When I was a child, I had a great opportunity as a kid because my parents they're religious, but they weren't like super preachy. Like my dad's a PK or a pastor's kid. His grandfather was a minister and his father was a huge deacon in their church. And my mom was very much into the church. But when raising me, they were like, we're going to be chilled. They'll take me to church, or take me to something. And then the funny thing is, there was this little neighborhood church where I lived. It was 3 blocks down the street. It was a Lutheran church. And all the kids in my neighborhood went to that church. And I said to my parents, can I go with them? And they go, yeah, go ahead. Even though we were Baptists, they're like, yeah, go. Because you know what? They're thinking, he wants to go, let him go. So then as I got a little bit older, I started singing, and I sang in the San Francisco Boys Chorus. And one of the directors in the chorus saw me, heard my voice, and said, would you like to sing to the St. Ignatius Boys Chorus? I said, sure. So then I would go to Lutheran church in the morning for Sunday school, run across town to do Catholic Mass and sing Catholic Mass, and then in the evening go to Baptist Training Union at our little local Baptist church in on Divisadero. So I've had a very, very spiritual and religious upbringing, but it's led me to just to having a good appreciation for my interaction with my higher power without having to feel the shame that sometimes religion may or may not bring to certain people. Glide has always been a good part of my San Francisco journey. Even though I'm not a member at Glide, I always feel like I'm welcome when I go. Yeah. And that's how my spirituality has kind of been brought up and raised here in San Francisco. Yeah, so you've been like gigging your whole life. Right? I mean, 11 years old, singing full on. It was great. My parents, thank goodness my mom was like, go sing, go do something. Did you always feel like you fit in church? No, not always. You know, sometimes they do love to preach the fire, brimstone, and damnation and hell nation. And they pick the one or two verses that say that homosexuality is a sin. I said, well, honey, don't you eat oysters? Don't you wear fabrics? Don't you wear fabrics? Is your daughter still a virgin? That if you're not stoning her, or you're eating that food, or you're wearing that fabric, you're sinning just as long as me. So sometimes I haven't felt welcome, but I've always been really lucky to have really great parents. My mom is my rock, and she's super supportive, and that's all I can ask for. Right. And so when did you recognize that you were gay? When didn't I recognize I was gay? That's the thing. It's like I knew from a very early age that I was different. Different is nice, but it sure isn't pretty. But for me, it was. Awesome. And your family, sounds like they were pretty supportive. No. It was so funny because I kind of didn't have to come out like other kids have to come out. My parents were like, "Where's your girlfriend?" I'm like, "What girlfriend?" And then they stopped asking that question. And then I was a cheerleader in high school. I was in musical theater, but I also was on the swim team, so I was a sports guy too. And when I went to college, I went away, and then I came back from college, and when I came back, I was helping take care of my grandmother at that time. She was ill, and I helped take care of her, and then I got into a relationship with a fella, it was just a thing. It was like, okay.
Mm-hmm. And where'd you end up going to school? Going away to school?
I went to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. Go Mustangs!
Okay.
And then I went to I did some grad work over at Cal. Go Bears! And I had the wonderful opportunity to actually work at both USF and at Cal as their cheer and dance coach for a very, very long time. And I also got a chance to be the head coach and artistic director of Cheer San Francisco here in San Francisco for 17 years.
Wow.
Yeah, so Africa's, but it's so funny because people go, Africa, she's new. I'm like, well, she's new, but she's not new. The face, and the amount of money raising and being in the community is not new. I mean, I've been on the board of Folsom. I have. I was the Miller liquor rep for 4 years, the regional rep, and my job was to do everything I could in the LGBT community to market and do fun things. So I got to be with part of the Bear Chest calendar. I got to be with Pride. That's how I met Honey. I met Honey. When she was a little young Honey.
Oh yeah. So that was a little bit ago, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, Honey's a mutual friend for folks who might not be aware. And so when did you stop singing? I guess
I actually never stopped singing. I sang off and on when there was a point where I lived in Bakersfield, California, of all places.
Wow.
But there was a great musical theater experience there, and I taught at a dance studio, and I sang in the musical theater. And then when I came home to help take care of my grandmother, I did some nonprofit work and helped out with things, and then I got into the San Francisco Gay Men's Chorus, and I sang with them for a while, and I became one of their musical directors of one of their small ensembles. And then that small ensemble broke off and became its own musical entity. It's called SWAG, Singers with a Goal, and we mostly sing gospel, pop, hip hop, fun stuff. And our job is to reach out to communities of color that have been marginalized, and kind of that Africa rolled out of that, and I became this drag queen who believes in exactly that, trying to make sure that those who are marginalized in the community get an opportunity to speak and get their voices heard.
Yeah. So when did you start doing drag?
Off and on, I did drag for 5-6 years, but then truly full time about 2.5 years ago, Africa was born. I said my big sister, BB Sweetbriar, I've known BB for 25 years, and I've known Mercedes for about 21 years. And so I talked to those gals, and I said, you know what? I think I'm going to try drag. And they said, it's about time. We've been waiting for you. So I kind of burst onto the scene, and it was so funny because all these kids go, who is this new girl? And then I would grab a microphone and I would sing, and they were like, oh, she can sing. Right. And then I would dance, and they go, oh, she can dance, and she has looks. Okay. And the next thing you know, I was doing some stuff, and then the pandemic hit, and then George Floyd was murdered, and I was called upon to speak at a Black Lives Matter rally called Ready to Listen last year, and kind of my activism, which is what I always love to ground. I guess that's my spirituality. I ground my spirituality in my activism. Took off even more, and was able to rally people around talking about the disenfranchisement of people of color in the Castro and in San Francisco in the queer community, because I think a lot of people in the queer community think, oh, there's no racism here because we're queer and we're minorities too. It's like, no. There's a lot of it. Yeah,
so you co-hosted a conversation, right? Was it?
I did. It was the Bay Area Queer Nightlife Coalition, and we had a town hall. It was Militia, Skunt, and I. We co-hosted, but we weren't the only ones. I mean, we had a whole coalition of people. Freddie Spidel was one of the founders of this organization. You just had Chris Steele on here, Polly Amber Ross, was part of that group as an ally. Amor Ortiz, Kai B. Michaels, Coco Butter, a bunch of queer people of color came together and we wanted to talk about these issues, and we kind of put the bars on blast, and it was a good thing. And now you see a very big difference in the Castro community. I mean, we have several producers and promoters and presenters of color leading shows now, not just white performers leading shows.
Fantastic. That's really great work. It's been it's like it's too like I'm glad that it's happening. So bad it hasn't happened already. You know.
Right.
Yeah.
It's those things that needed to happen. I mean, I'm producing 3 or 4 different places. I'm in Lookout. I'm at Beaux. I'm at Midnight Sun. I'm at the Edge. I was at the Powerhouse. I will probably hopefully go back. Hi, Scott. And I want to be an Oasis. I go over to the Port Bar over in Oakland. I go to K Rico over in Oakland. I think it's just important for us, and I want to start going down to South Bay. I think it's important for us to be seen and keep drawing up the new talent of color and allies. I mean, everybody needs to be seen, but right now I'm focusing on those who haven't been seen for a long time.
Right. Well, and you mentioned that like activism is kind of a form of maybe how your spirituality plays out. Are there any other sorts of practices or ritual or things that you participate around your own spirituality?
I think that's a good question. I think I have a very private conversation with my higher power. I say God, but other people say their higher power. And it's I feel like I'm just kind of drawn to be my goal is always the golden rule: do unto others as you'd have done to you, and try to be just a good person.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have anything nice to say, try not to say it, even though you're dying to say it. Unless they try you, then you have to go for it. But
Right.
it's not. Who's it helping?
Yeah. There is a question that came in from Troy.
Hi, Troy.
So Troy says, "Hello, Afrika America. We all are facing and coping from some and or intergenerational trauma. The question is, can you please share in your journey experiencing with intergenerational trauma in as a work in progress and your coping resolutions to it? Or just already your healing success, inspiration, success from it? Thanks." I always struggle reading these on.
Okay, come on, Troy. Troy is thoughtful. Thank you.
Yes.
First of all, thank you for that question. There is a lot of intergenerational struggle, and even though I look young and gorgeous, I'm a little older than the majority. I just celebrated my birthday yesterday. I will put it this way: I'm old enough to know who Johnny Carson was on the Tonight Show.
Well, happy birthday. Happy belated.
Thank you. So I feel as someone who is older that we need to continue to lift up the younger generation. And I also feel that the younger generation really needs to be friends with the older generation. I feel like there is a divide, and I feel like some young people are feeling like the older generation does not know how to behave towards them, or does not respect them in the way that they would like to be respected. In the other direction, I also feel like sometimes the younger generation doesn't respect what the older generation went through so that they could have the voices that they have. So I think the number one thing, and I would say the thing about what Troy's question is communication. We are all sitting in silos and not communicating. And until we can pull up our big people's pants, I don't want to say big boys or big girls pants, because it's big people's pants. Well, we can all pull up our big people's pants and sit down at the table and have cogent conversations. And they have to be courageous. Sometimes you have to say the truth, even if the truth is not necessarily the nicest thing, because once you have that conversation, you've gotten that out. But get it out in a respectful way. And what I mean by respectful is there doesn't need to be shouting. We've had the last 4 years have been a shit show. I'm going to say it, pardon my French, have been a shit show of people behaving poorly. And now we have we have a new administration in office. So now I think we as people, again, need to follow how we want to be treated and treat others that way. It doesn't mean, though, that we go backwards and let those who are screaming loudly and screaming lies continue to scream over us. No, no. We just we take a stop, we take a stance. We might have to put them on read for a second, and then we move forward in a very respectful way. I hope that answers the question, Troy.
I think that's a great answer. And I think also what that does is, language has changed so much, and so I think there almost needs to be like the ability for the folks of different generations to allow each other a little grace.
Exactly.
I know some of us younger folks might use words that other folks from different generations are like, what we don't, and like, so being able to honor that, but then also being able to say, okay, I get why you identify that way now.
Correct.
Yeah.
I think especially the word queer is that's for older gays, specifically older gay men, that was a horrible thing to be called. It's a horrible stereotype to be called. However, I understand that the younger generation has re-embraced that, and it does encompass when we say queer, because we're no longer just lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender. We are so many things. I mean, we're intersex. We're two-spirit, and they're non-binary. That is so. It's important that we all respect that. I mean, I've had many times I've said ladies and gentlemen, and I've had people tell me, can you not say that because not everyone's a lady or a gentleman? I'm like, good point.
Yes. Yeah, and I think that's what it takes, is like the ability to be able to say, be able to just receive that sort of feedback, but two, also for folks to be able to think, okay, maybe this person isn't trying to be a jerk.
Right.
And check in with them. Yeah.
Exactly. I think when you said grace is the number one thing. I said the exact same thing last year when we had the Ready to Listen rally. I said, white folks, you need to take a step back and really focus on people of color, especially Black lives, because right now they need to matter a little bit, because they need to be really focused on so that we can stop the killing and the brutalizations. However, Black folks, we also need to have some grace and allow the white folks to catch up.
Yeah,
and if we do not allow, how are they ever going to get better? I mean, yes, there are some people who are just not going to get better. We know that, but there are those who are truly going to try, and we need to. Those who want to try, bring them aboard.
Yeah, it can make things. I know sometimes I can feel almost paralyzed because I want to do the right thing. I want to be supportive, but then I also don't want to say the wrong thing. I hear a lot of people talk about that. Like, I just don't know. I'm afraid to do something wrong, right?
Right. And I think the number one thing to do is turn to a friend that you can trust and say, can we have a real conversation for a second? I need some guidance, and I don't know the answer to this question.
Yeah.
And ask the question in a right way. Now, sometimes you can do the work. You'll say google.com. That's general knowledge. But if you're trying to elicit a real conversation and be a real ally or a real friend, this goes for everybody. This doesn't go just for white folks to Black folks or white folks to other people of color. This also goes to those of us who might perceive ourselves when I'm not in drag, I appear as a cisgendered male. Even though I'm Black and I have that whole, I'm always going to have that problem with me. Oh, Larry Lair, hi love. Even though I'm always going to have, when I walk into a room, you're always going to see a Black person first before you see anything else. And that just carries a whole bit of baggage with us. It's also incumbent on us to be that support mechanism for those people who are walking into a room that we don't maybe know their gender journey. That's also another thing. It doesn't mean that it's the same as being, and that's the other thing too. We've got to always make sure that people aren't using racism and gender equity on the same thing. Racism, unfortunately, is there because people can see me from far away as a Black person or someone far away as an Asian person. They can't always tell from a white person who is non-binary what their gender may or may not be.
Yeah.
And so that's the difference.
Yeah, I think one thing that's really important, and I think that's kind of interesting to try to talk about, like as a white person who is trans and kind of being in those conversations, I think it's really important for people to understand that like a trans oppression, if you will, is does not match a racial oppression, right?
Correct.
I know when I was younger, I used to think like, oh, I grew up in a trailer, I was poor, like whatever. So I know what it's like to be oppressed like a black person, which was totally like, no, girl, it's like completely different experience, you know? And so I think those are those little nuances that I think some folks are just now coming to understand that
Correct.
it's like just if you are somebody who's not of color, just think about what if you were of color in your life, even though it was so hard and so challenging, what would it have been like if if your skin was a different color? Like how would it
Exactly.
be more different?
That is, you hit the nail right on the head. It's like having that ability to take a step back and put yourself in that other person's shoes and say, wow, because I, I can't even count the many times I've been called the N-word,
Mm,
and while I don't love it, I also look at the person and look at where I'm receiving it from and how I receive it, and then decide on my actions based on how I receive it
yeah.
and where I am and what I'm doing. Am I at work?
Mm,
Am I at work in drag where I can own that stage, I can own that moment, or am I at work in my corporate job where I'm representing a company and I have to take a step back and figure out, yes, that is unacceptable behavior, and I'm going to report that behavior, but I've got to figure out the steps I'm going to report that behavior. Does that
yeah.
make sense? It's and I mean, and that's the thing with being trans too and non-binary. Um, you have to make choices. There are choices you have to make. Am I going to walk down this street tonight because I feel like my safety is or is not in jeopardy?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Or do I need to take a car, or do I need to not dress the way that I want to dress? Or
Exactly, and that's not fair. You should be able to dress however you want to dress, but you know that for every action there is a reaction and or a consequence.
yeah, yeah,
And you
yeah.
just gotta and you just and at the end of the day, all I want is everybody to get home safely.
Right. That's all any of us want.
Yeah, I mean, I want you to be able to live it. Can I live my damn life the way I want to live it? I look fabulous. Let me be fabulous.
And we talked a little bit about kind of trans and non-binary folks, and
Yep.
back Bruins Mario had a question. Mario is in Africa and in a refugee camp, I believe, called Kokomo Refugee Camp in Kenya.
Oh wow.
And they ask hello, or they say transgender sisters are doing well with the homophobes in the camp. What do you do to help um, people in this situation or towards this situation? So I think, what can you do to be an ally to trans people?
I mean, absolutely. The number one thing you can do to be an ally to trans people, and also any marginalized people, is to say something. Step up and say something. To be your truth and be that warrior for them. If they can, you can. If you see something, say something. If you see someone brutalizing somebody or mistreating somebody, you don't stand by idly and go, I don't want to get involved, and then say to them afterwards, that was really terrible. No, you get up and you say something in a safe manner.
Yeah.
Here's the caveat. If you know that you're in a place and space where you cannot affect a specific change that will keep you and the other person safe, then figure out an exit strategy to extricate that person and you from that issue.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I mean, I know you've probably seen there when the kids bully a kid. Kids are the worst, especially teenagers. They're
Right.
the worst, and they don't know any better, and they act out. And then there's that one teenager who grabs the kid and says, "Come with me," and they get them out of the situation because they want to make sure that that person is safe, and because somehow they have the moral compass to help.
Mm.
I would say do that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so, and I think that's the biggest thing. It's like you can't go into every situation as if like the same, you know.
No,
I mean that not wisely, you
no,
know. You could choose to, but it might help to use a little wisdom.
yeah,
Um, Larry Lair adds, I learned from trans friends to ask one question, and it is, what do you need?
Exactly. Thank you, Larry. Absolutely. And now Larry is one of my dear friends. I love him to death. I haven't seen him all over the pandemic. He stayed out and he kept his mask on. And now that we're getting out, I want to see you, Larry.
Okay.
He is absolutely correct. Ask, what do you need? It's just that simple. And you know what? You don't have to like go out loud. What do you need? You can just turn to them quietly and say, and walk by them and whisper in their ear, what do you need? Do you need any help? Can I be of service? Also, if you see a trans person maybe in an icky situation where someone's kind of just being weird and stuff, walk up to them and act like you know them.
Yeah.
You know, that's the number one thing. Go, hey, how's it going? It's been so long since seen you. And they'll, trust me, they'll be like, oh, hey, you know what? My mom's over here. She would love to see you. Okay, great. And walk them over that way. And they'll be like, thank you so much for saving me. I'm like, yeah, no worries.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one little thing that kind of just came up to me when you were talking to, it's like, is to also just see trans people as not just their struggle or their challenge, that they are people who have joys and like, you know, like there's like rad stuff about being a trans person too.
Yes.
Know? Yeah.
I have a really good friend who's taught me a lot about being a great trans ally. They have been on a great journey, and not to tell all their truth in the story, but I know they went from one situation to fully to another transcendent situation, and then realized that's not what they wanted to be. Pulled themselves back to where they thought was best, and now they are living as a gender fluid person. Mm-hmm. And I was like, just let me know. And it's been really wonderful for me because I'm learning so much. I feel like I have learned so much from that person, and they're always constantly a hero to me.
Right. Yeah, there are lots of ways to exist as a trans person. There's not one narrative.
No.
We're going to go ahead and take just a quick little 30-second break for me to show a promo, and then we'll be right back to continue the conversation. Folks that are listening, now's a great time to put in the questions that you might have for Africa. Thanks so much.
It was so quick and painless.
Yeah.
You got soft on me though all of a sudden.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
In my sound or in my head?
I mean, your sound got soft.
Okay.
You're very soft. You're always soft. Hold on. Let me see if maybe it's me. How's that? Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Okay, you're okay. It's just a little softer, but you're fine.
All right. Yeah, are folks in the audience, are you able to hear everything okay too? Can maybe make some adjustments. I'm not really sure what to adjust. So the audience can tell us too.
Right. You know, we love this streaming thing. Hello COVID. It's made us. Did you know that because of COVID, we've all become so technical? I mean, we're producers, lighting directors, costume designers, set designers.
Yeah, does seem like maybe my sound. Is my sound better now?
Oh yeah, it's better.
All of a sudden, yeah.
Yeah.
Looks like my mic came undone a little bit. It loosened up, so.
There you go.
You're pointing that out.
Yeah, now I can hear you.
So how does your drag? Do you have an opportunity to do spiritual and drag shit at the same time?
I think when I do the activism stuff, yes, and also when I'm able to uplift new artists. I'm actually so excited. I did this this drag show called Let the Games Begin at Midnight Sun. It's a drag contest. It's all newcomers. And I think that's because I feel like that's a lot of my spirituality there. Also, I told you it was part of it was being an activist, but also it's kind of part of me being a mother. And I have that mothering, caring thing. And all I want to do is get these new artists out, and so they can get an opportunity. So I kind of created this drag contest, and then there's a bunch of producers right now who have a lot of the shows that have kind of sprung up out in the wilderness, as they say.
Uh-huh.
And being able to produce that show, I think that's kind of been my little bit of, because every time we finish the night, I just kind of go home and I'm all happy, and I feel so great because it's not. All I do is the game night. I don't do any of the performance. I don't perform in the show. I just host the show, and I get to see these young people really, really develop their skills, and then we give them feedback to help them develop more. And last Wednesday we had our wild card round. So this was all the kids who didn't win their cycle, but they were high enough in the groupings to get an invite back to get into the semifinals. And there were 4, and 2 of them made it into the semifinals, but all 4 of them were so phenomenal. It was just to see them take the critiques that they had gotten before and apply them, and they were great. It was, and just to tell them, this is going to get you hired, and you're going to be able to do your art, and you're going to be able to do what you do. Because I don't want everybody to do the same thing. I don't want everybody to be a pretty queen or a kooky queen or a drag clown or a drag king. I want you to be your best drag self.
Yeah, because I think that can be challenging where folks feel like there's only a certain kind of drag. Just like there's a certain kind of way to be gay or a certain type of way to be spiritual. It's not true.
Not true at all. In fact, I'm going to tell this little thing. So going into the semifinals, I have 2 drag kings, a non-binary drag queen, an AFAB bio queen, a trans woman, and then a campy queen. So, I mean, talk about, we've got the whole entire gambit of drag going on in the semifinals. So that's probably, when you say, what's my spirituality, that part makes my spirituality flow. It's like, thank you. I feel like God put me here to help hopefully give somebody else an opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, that's so important. And I think I think that's a great thing. As I know you're not an elder, but you're an elder to some. But I think that's, just another great thing that elders do for us and have done for us, like for forever.
Right. I can kind of consider myself an elder, because even though I'm not new at the performance game at all. I've been doing this, like you said, since I was out of the womb. So thank you for calling me an elder. Thank you for calling me almost not an elder, but no.
I don't know how to say it.
I am. No, I am. I own it. I own it. It's good. Yeah. Because you know what? I've had the opportunity to grow my career and to regrow from my career. I remade myself doing this, and I'm loving it. This is the best thing. And I hope I'm here to tell other people it's never too late to start if you have a dream that you want to do something.
Yeah, and right. And elder, I think always we think of like that equaling age, but it doesn't mean that, and it can be relative. Like, like you might be an elder to me in this part of my life, but I also might be an elder to you in another part of your life.
I think right now you're an elder to me because you're doing the chaplaincy that you're doing, and this kind of conversation and lead is very much, you're teaching me a lot right now.
Well, I feel like that's a lot. I mean, I know that's how I've been able to grow, is by finding those elders, and whether, I'm a recovered addict, so like finding somebody who's been sober a little longer than me and that I can kind of do what they did and get results similar to them. I feel like the things that we need to do, whether it's in drag or activism or who knows what it is.
Right. Exactly. I mean, and I love that you have the honesty. So thank you for sharing your story, and thank you for sharing that part. It's because, I mean, every time you have to share that, you're coming out.
Yeah, it's something for me. It's just, I'm pretty integrated. So like for me, it's just like I've been living with HIV for 23 years. Like I'm trans, and I'm like, and I'm really comfortable talking about these things, but I realize that other people, it's like, they're maybe not be as comfortable,
Right.
Yeah. So I think that's why it's important to just talk about it. And that's a lot of what this platform is for folks just to, again, hear different narratives and hear how people are existing in powerful and wonderful and amazing ways with their drag, but also beyond that too.
Right.
Yeah. What is it that you love most about drag?
It is. I have to say, it is like a superhero costume. Yeah,
Mm,
when you get in your drag, you can do things that you might maybe that you didn't think was available to you out of drag, but then
mm,
you can make that available to you out. You can use that power out of drag too. Um, though I do love getting into drag and entertaining a crowd, but also making them think about something.
mhm.
Um, but I have to tell you, my favorite part about drag is getting out of it sometimes. Though digital drag is great because we're pretty from here up,
Mhm.
and we're very comfortable from there down below.
Right, right. That's my least favorite thing is getting out of it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if it was quicker,
Right,
if the process was quicker, I'd be like all about it. But sometimes I'm just like, oh,
right.
can I sleep on this? Like, which is awful.
Especially if you have like multiple things to do.
Mhm.
You're like,
It's like
okay, let
I
me just
hope I
sleep
have
like this.
energy. Yes, yes, yes. What else is in it? I feel like my hair is falling off.
It looks gorgeous. I love it.
Thank you. This is my first bald look.
You will work, honey.
Thanks.
Bald is beautiful.
Yes. So is there anything else that you would like to share with us that we haven't got to talk
Um, you know what I would love to share with people is keep coming out and keep supporting all the different drag shows. There's so many different shows out there, and don't be afraid to come out and see them and be part of them. And find the ones that you like the best. Try to support everybody. Right now there's I am so lucky to work in different bars and different places, but I know there's different types of drag and or other performance arts that are happening. Um, Jolene's has a very burlesque esque, feminine energy type of shows going on there. The Edge has multiple different shows with uh, people of color led shows, trans led shows. Um, Beaux has got people of color led shows, trans led shows.
Mhm.
Um, Midnight's done the same. It's I think since because of the COVID epidemic, um, people did really had to get their houses in order, and we as the community kind of said you need to get it together.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Which is it's so great to see, and now it's like now they get to put it into action now that
right, I mean,
it's opening.
I'm waiting for now the South of Market bars are starting to open up. So I'm very interested to see how that diversity will happen. I'm excited because like Oasis has got something really cool going on there with some of the stud programming going into Oasis. We'll see what's going on at the other clubs. Also, for those who are sober and in safe spaces, we also the BAQNC also tasked each of the bars to really think about our sober individuals and um, have mocktail
Yeah,
type
more
of.
than just a Diet Coke and a Sprite.
Yeah, exactly. You want something tasty, but you don't want to feel like you have to fall off of your sobriety. So
Yeah,
keep
and
asking at those bars, do you have a mocktail menu? Do you have other opportunities besides sodas? Now
yeah,
maybe they don't, but maybe you asking makes their brains think about it. We've been asking them for that. Do the spaces feel trans inclusive? Do the spaces feel color inclusive? Do the
hmm
spaces feel female inclusive? And that's important because um, it just can't be a cisgender white guy dude world. It has to be everybody.
right. There's enough of that. There's enough of
That
that
part.
around,
That
right?
part.
Yes. Um, so then we're like right around the end of time. It's I know, right?
Fabulous.
We're like 45 minutes in, so you should like to go about 45 minutes to an
Oh,
hour.
perfect.
How can folks get connected with you?
You can everybody do me a favor right now. Go to Instagram. I'm Instagram at Miss America Diva SF. Please follow me, please, please, please. You can also, if you want to tip me, my tipping information, Venmo at Miss America Diva SF. My Cash App, the $ Miss America Diva SF. PayPal is paypal.me/Divalicious Show. Please come in and support all the things that I am doing it in. please come and support all the things that all the artists are doing, and because I think it's so important that we as a community can get behind all of our artists.
Yes, and so folks, you can find that on the screen there in the bottom in the ticker, or also if you just look in the description of the video, or also this is uploaded on a podcast, so you can find it in the description of the podcast as well. I did have one question that came back to mind.
Yes,
that I can
yes,
ask. And digital drag, I was
yes.
curious, what do you think will happen to digital? What are your thoughts on digital drag now, I guess?
So I loved digital drag at the beginning of the pandemic because it was a way for us to have an outlet. And I love to see the growth and progression of how that became, and that it gave us an opportunity to make content. The problem is the field got saturated very, very quickly. And so I feel like there are going to be niche shows that we're going to be able to handle it. Like Media Meltdown. They are really doing a fantastic job with their digital show.
Shows, yeah.
That's still staying up there. I think Monster Show is thinking about staying part-time, but I'm not sure. Princess TV went off doing it, and now they're moving back into Oasis. I left digital. I loved it, but it was a lot of work. So I think that if you have a really good niche and you have a good following, that will stay around. But I think a lot of the digital drag will fall away. However, I think it has made a new standard for us having content on our Instagrams, our Facebooks, our Twitters, and things like that.
Yeah, I feel like there's still probably a place for it, because I thought one of the things that was exciting about digital drag is that you had folks who don't have access to drag who were able to see it. So you have folks who are underage, you have folks who are differently abled, you have folks who are like in a small town in Idaho,
right?
Who can access some drag.
I think hopefully we will get to a point where we can marry the live aspects with digital to make sure that people do have access. I think that is the next step, because we need to figure that out. I know it's money, because the bars need to make money, or the theaters need to make money. We know this.
Right.
But we also want to make sure that access is important. Everybody doesn't have maybe the monetary funds to get to these things, and or like you said, age, differently abled.
Too. Yeah, there might be even safety.
Exactly.
Somebody can be sitting in their bedroom watching drag, like with I don't know, they can do it in privacy if they need to.
Correct.
Because drag is such a gift. Like
it is a gift
we get from watching it and participating, which is a lot of why I wanted to do this series. Is I felt like drag artists have been our spiritual leaders as queer folks for years. To me, I believe like a church is a place that we would go to be held and be taken care of, and like you think of like mission work and stuff, and drag queens and drag kings and other artists have like raised money for people dying of AIDS and have been out in and have done things just to lift our spirit.
Exactly.
And they're so visible, which is a really powerful, I think.
And I think when you asked me the other question too, what does my drag do? I think drag is also a responsibility. Like you just said, yes, we can get out here and we can grab for our dollars and do that. But if we're not giving back into the community, then we're just taking. We need to also always think of we're receiving a wonderful gift. So let us make sure that we are good stewards of that gift to give back.
Yes, agreed. All right, well, thank you so much for joining me this evening, Africa. Thank you, everyone who joined us, either live or will come across this some other time. If you are following along, we'll have another live episode on Monday. And there has been a little bit of a time change, so it'll be Monday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Our guest is Lotus Boy, who I am super thrilled to have Lotus Boy be on the show. So I'm actually working on making a wig too, so you have to come.
Oh, cool!
Check that out. All right, so thanks again. Thanks so much, and take care, and have a good night, everybody.
You too. Good night, sweetheart.
Bye-bye.